Happy Monday, Pioneer Valley Church. Hope this finds you well. It's Monday night. We're getting it in here at The Wire, but we are getting our Monday minutes in. We talked yesterday about little things done with great love and the kingdom of little things, and how the kingdom to the world doesn't look like much. It's backwards from the empires of the world, but it is actually God reordering the world to its right way, and it's a display of the new creation come, and the one day new creation come in its fullness, and how good it is to be a part of that. It made me think of this passage in 1 Corinthians chapter 1 and verse 26, where Paul says, "Brothers and sisters, think of what you were when you were called. Not many of you were wise by human standards. Not many were influential. Not many were of noble birth. But God chose the foolish things of the world to shame the wise. God chose the weak things of the world to shame the strong." And, I think it's good to just remember who we were before Jesus, before discipleship, who we were in the world. Not many of us were wise or influential or of noble birth. Most of us were wayward and lost and living very unwise lives and suffering for it. And God took that and redeemed it, restored us, is renewing us, is saving us, is calling us into participation with his new creation, and somehow in his kingdom using us to put on display the work of making all things new. And he's taking our weakness and our foolishness, and he's shaming the wise of the world, and how upside down it looks to the world, and yet how it is, again, God reordering things in the way that they were supposed to be. And we serve a great God who works in small things. And Jesus talks about, even just the anonymous things that we do in our lives, the things that go hidden, the hidden life that we have with God, of fasting and praying and giving to the needy, and these things that nobody else sees, but that God treasures, and that somehow we store up for ourselves, treasures in heaven along the way of this kingdom. And that's just a beautiful thing. It may not look like much in this world, but someday it will shine, and all of creation will rejoice as the children of God are revealed, Paul says in Romans. It made me think of the story of a woman named Saint Theresa of Lisieux, or Lisieux, French name, French place. But she was a cloister nun. She died in 1897 at the age of 24. And her journey, her spiritual journey, was one filled with longing for greatness and the desires to be great and to do great things, to be recognized for greatness. And yet her path was one of anonymity. And she died, like I said, very young. And it wasn't until after her death that her writings were put together in a memoir called The Little Way. And it became a spiritual formation giant of a book, really, to so many for the last 100 years, or more than 100 years now, of how to live in the kingdom. And hers was a way of living by doing little things that go unrecognized by most people, but are recognized by God, and that was her way of living in the kingdom. And she claimed to be not the mouth or the hand or the feet in the body of Christ, but the heart, the unseen, the internal. She wanted to be as close to the heart of Jesus as possible. And she talked about this, living in a monastery and living with different types of people. And some of the nuns were very charismatic and very spiritual and very loving. And she talked about how easy it was to be drawn to them and to love them, and how people just kind of came to them. And then she talked about this other group of people. She said, "On the other hand, imperfect souls are not sought out. When I speak of imperfect souls, I don't want to speak of spiritual imperfections, since most holy souls will be perfect in heaven. But I want to speak of a lack of judgment, good manners, touchiness in certain characters, all these things which don't make life agreeable." She's talking about people, by the way. I know very well that these moral infirmities are chronic, that there is no hope of a cure, but I also know that my mother would not cease to take care of me, to try to console me if I remained sick all my life. Basically saying, look, some people are just grumpy, hard to get along with, disagreeable, and they don't seem to ever change. But you know what? If I was sick all my life, my mom would take care of me, or God would take care of us, and that's how we need to care for them too. And she says, this is the conclusion I draw from this. I must seek out in recreation on free days the company of the sisters who are the least agreeable to me, in order to carry out with regard to these wounded souls the office of the Good Samaritan. A word, an amiable smile, often suffice to make a sad soul bloom. And this was her way of living in the kingdom, doing little things for those disagreeable people, things that would never be seen, that would never be recognized, that would never even be thanked in many situations, but that she would see when she was kind to some disagreeable person, their soul grow, open up a little bit. And that was her way of living in the kingdom. Little things with great love. She said, nothing is insignificant or negligible in the service of God. And so we serve a great God, but we serve him with little things, with great love in the kingdom. And we serve a kingdom of love. And Jesus says that when we embrace the way of the kingdom and the kingdom message in our lives, that message has a way of growing 30, 60, or 100 times our capacity to love and to live in that kingdom and to influence others for God's love. And that's really what we want, right? Not influence of the world, but influence of the kingdom. I hope that you are developing a influential life for the kingdom, and it probably looks very little. It looks insignificant to the world. It may be full of secret fasting and praying and giving to the needy and loving disagreeable people, but someday it will be revealed, and God will celebrate with you. I'm going to leave a link for the song "Little Things with Great Love." I read the lyrics to you in the sermon yesterday. I'll leave that for you as well. Hope you have a great rest of your week. See you Sunday.